Imagine you are standing in the middle of Times Square in New York. Neon lights everywhere. Thousands of people walking, laughing, tourists taking photos, giant screens flashing advertisements. It looks like a normal night in one of the most famous cities in the world. But suddenly, the question appears in people's minds. What if a missile was launched thousands of kilometers away from the Middle East from Iran? Could it actually reach New York? This question may sound like something from a Hollywood movie, but recently it has become a serious discussion among military experts, intelligence agencies, and governments around the world, especially after tensions between the United States and Iran increased again in 2026 following military strikes and rising conflict in the region. Reuters. So today we are going to explore something fascinating and a little frightening. Could Iran actually attack New York? To understand this, we need to travel thousands of kilometers away to the deserts and mountains of Iran. For decades, Iran has been building one of the largest missile programs in the Middle East. The country has invested billions of dollars into developing ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drones. Many of these missiles are designed to travel very fast, sometimes faster than 10 times the speed of sound. Some Iranian missiles can travel around 1,200 to 2,000 kilometers. That is far enough to reach Israel, parts of Europe, and many American military bases in the Middle East. But New York? That is an entirely different story. The distance between Iran and New York is more than 10,000 kilometers. That means a missile launched directly from Iranian soil simply cannot reach the United States mainland with the technology that Iran has publicly demonstrated so far. So does that mean New York is completely safe? Not necessarily. Because in military strategy, there is always another possibility. Some Iranian officials have claimed that in the future they could launch missiles from ships positioned in the ocean closer to the United States. If a ship carrying missiles moved within about 2,000 kilometers of the American coastline, theoretically those missiles could target cities like Washington or New York. Dura'an International, Iran International. But here's where things get complicated. Sending a warship close to the United States without being detected would be extremely difficult. The Atlantic Ocean is heavily monitored by satellites, radar systems, submarines, and the powerful U.S. Navy. In simple terms, it would be like trying to sneak a truck into the most heavily guarded neighborhood in the world. And if such a ship was detected, the response would likely be immediate. But missiles are not the only way countries attack each other. In fact, modern warfare is changing rapidly. Some experts believe that if Iran ever wanted to strike the United States directly, the most likely method would not be a missile at all. It would be cyber warfare. Instead of explosions in the sky, the attack could happen silently through computers. Imagine the power grid shutting down in a major city, banking systems freezing, transportation networks collapsing, airports losing communication. Security agencies already warn that cyber attacks are a realistic threat from state-backed groups linked to Iran. Reuters. And in a digital world, damage like that can sometimes be as disruptive as a physical attack. But there is another layer to this story. Because when governments talk about attacks, they are not always talking about countries acting alone. Sometimes they talk about proxy groups. Iran has long been associated with allied armed groups across the Middle East, and Western intelligence agencies often worry about whether these groups could target U.S. interests abroad. However, attacking inside the United States itself would be extremely difficult due to strong intelligence and security systems. Still, the fear of retaliation often forces cities like New York to stay alert whenever tensions rise between Washington and Tehran. And that is exactly what has happened before. Whenever conflict escalates in the Middle East, security agencies increase protection around important locations in New York, including embassies, transportation hubs, and public places. New York Post. Because New York is not just a city. It is a symbol, a financial capital, a global cultural center. And historically, symbolic targets are often the most powerful in psychological warfare. But here is the most important question. Even if Iran somehow developed the technology to reach American cities, would it actually do it? Because launching a direct attack on New York would mean something enormous. It would almost certainly trigger a massive response from the United States. And that response could escalate into a much larger war. In global politics, decisions like this are rarely taken lightly. Which brings us to the biggest mystery of all. If Iran cannot easily hit New York with missiles today, and if such an attack would trigger a devastating response. Why do people still worry about it? The answer lies in something even more powerful than missiles: fear and uncertainty. Now imagine this. It is 3:17 in the morning in New York City. The streets are quieter than usual. A few taxis move through Manhattan, cleaning trucks pass slowly, and the lights of skyscrapers still glow against the dark sky. But thousands of kilometers away, inside a military monitoring center in the United States, a radar screen suddenly shows something unusual. A signal appears over the Atlantic Ocean. At first, it looks like just another object moving across the radar, something that could be an aircraft or even space debris. But then the system begins calculating its speed. The numbers start rising rapidly. Mach 2, Mach 4, Mach 6. Within seconds, alarms begin ringing inside the command center. Because objects moving that fast are usually not airplanes. They are missiles. Immediately, analysts start asking the most critical question: where did it come from? Satellites begin scanning the region. Military computers start analyzing the trajectory. Experts try to determine whether the object was launched from land, from a submarine, or possibly from a ship somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean. Within minutes, military command centers across the United States are alerted. This is how modern defense systems work. Everything happens extremely fast. Decisions that could affect millions of lives may have to be made in just a few minutes. Now here is where things become even more interesting. The United States actually has multiple layers of missile defense designed to stop such threats before they reach American cities. One of the most important systems is called the Ground-Based Midcourse Defense, a network specifically designed to intercept long-range ballistic missiles aimed at the United States. Another powerful system is Aegis Ballistic Missile Defense, which is installed on U.S. Navy destroyers and cruisers. These ships patrol oceans around the world and are capable of launching interceptor missiles that destroy incoming threats in space. There is also the famous Patriot missile system, used by many countries to intercept missiles closer to the ground. So if a missile was ever detected heading toward New York, it would not simply fly freely toward the city. Instead, it would face a complex shield of detection systems, satellites, radars, and interceptor missiles. But defense experts always say something important. No system is perfect. Even the most advanced technology cannot guarantee 100% protection. This is why military planners constantly analyze worst-case scenarios. Now imagine the tension inside that command center. Officials must quickly decide whether the radar signal is a real threat or a false alarm. Because launching interceptor missiles is a serious decision. It means the country believes it is under attack. And if the attack was confirmed to be coming from Iran, the consequences would be enormous. It would instantly become one of the biggest military crises in modern history.